G'day everyone, welcome to Talking Leadership. This is Eric Perez, your podcast host. Welcome you again. I'm speaking to an entrepreneur based in one of the great regions of Queensland, being Toowoomba. He's the founder of shedblog.com.au, and in his spare time, he's also managed to be a co-founder of startup Toowoomba as its program manager, and he's also a founder with Canvas Coworking Incorporated. So can I welcome to the podcast David Masefield. How are you, David?
Great. I'm great. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for inviting me along.
Mate, I hope I got the pronunciation of your surname correct. Is it Masefield or Masefield?
Masefield.
Oh, okay. I did get it right first time. Well, there's a first for me. So look, welcome to the podcast. I know how busy you are, so I do appreciate your time. Let's start where I always start with this podcast, mate, by asking you the question: what was your pathway to becoming an entrepreneur? What got you onto this roller coaster ride, sir?
I think that entrepreneurship came to me very early, just through my experience as a kid. I was introduced to the concepts of fossicking and prospecting in the creeks and gullies around my grandparents' farms, and my father also introduced me to metal detecting and treasure hunting and that sort of stuff. So I've always had the desire to find that diamond in the rough, to search out that gem or that nugget, and that's how I feel that I was sort of born to become entrepreneurial in nature. So over the course of my even early career, starting off as a kitchen hand at Hungry Jack's, I was always looking for ways to improve my lot, and how could I move ahead from there. So yeah, it's I think it's been bred into me.
Thank you for sharing that. And in the introduction, I did run through a couple of the different entities that you're involved with. And I guess with those in mind, and given your experience in this space, can I ask you, do you see a difference, or is there a difference between the leadership and entrepreneurial functions as far as you've been able to tease out in your experience as an entrepreneur?
There is I think a lot of difference between leaders and entrepreneurs. Some entrepreneurs are not great leaders. They can be rather short, they can be aggressive, they can be unable to articulate clearly exactly what they're looking for themselves, but they need to make good hires, and then so leaders are not always the best entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are not always the best leaders. Totally. Yeah. I think when we look at some of the major organisations in the past, that's quite obvious that some very successful entrepreneurs make incredibly silly mistakes.
Okay, I think you might be talking from some life experience there, at least. In your travels, you would have met these people, obviously, and you foreshadowed my next theme, and I might get you maybe talk about this a little bit more if you could. The difficulties about being an entrepreneur, other than the ones that you mentioned, what in your experience has been the difficult part of taking this journey, mate?
Well, for me, and there's quite a lot of people out there that'll confirm this, but I'm a great starter, and I'm not really a great finisher. So I'm an ideas kind of person, and I can develop new, novel and innovative ideas and push forward on those. But then the next interesting item will come along, and I'll be distracted, and so lots of shiny everywhere. So for me, one of the most difficult things is finishing. Great at starting, finishing is the hard part for me.
Let me ask you this: you've been able to identify that as a shortcoming, if I can use that term, of what you do in your businesses. How do you address it? I'm curious. Do you buy that skill in? Do you have trusted friends that'll tap you on the shoulder and go, mate, there's some stuff that needs doing here? Like, what's your process, if I can ask?
Yeah, certainly. So it's recognizing where you need help, and hiring or engaging professional support, whether that be bookkeeping, accounting, legal, co-founders. So co-founders are great. You got to get the right co-founder if you're not running a solo operation, and I'm being prepared to be open to having help. It's a slippery path to bad situations if you're not open to help and accepting help and recognizing when you need it.
Yeah, that's very good insight there. So Something more positive, measuring success. How do you measure success, mate, in your travels? And I know you've got very differently focused business from what we discussed offline. So is there a running theme of success that you have through your businesses, or does it differ based on the business that you're involved with at any given time?
Yeah, certainly. So for me, I suppose success is joy. It is feeling good about where I am in my life and what's going on. It's not based around mega dollars or big exits or anything like that. It's about a lifestyle and what I can do with my time and things like that, and what I've done to support people. So one of our businesses is an incorporated association, so that's a not-for-profit. I'm president of Canvas Coworking, and we're here to support other entrepreneurs. And we don't take equity. We're not looking to take a share in their company to feather our own nest. What we're interested in is providing a service that allows entrepreneurs in our region a better chance of success. So that is one of my motivations there. The startup Toowoomba company, it's a for-profit. It does some fee-for-service type work that allows me to do the not-for-profit stuff. So, and then the Shed blog, which I started probably 10 years ago now, is the backbone of all the income that is able to be operated anywhere in the world. So because it's an e-commerce drop shipping business, I can operate it from Europe, from Asia, from America. I don't have to be in the country managing warehousing, transport, logistics, things like that. So I can travel at leisure to wherever I want to be. So they're the three the important things for me, is that I can help other entrepreneurs, and that I'm not tied to one specific location permanently. So yeah, that's so success for me is all of those things.
And it's a nice list to have. And one question I do have, if you'll indulge me a little bit.
Sure.
I've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs on these podcasts, and to a podcast guest, and I'll include you in this. There's been always a mention of extending yourself to help other entrepreneurs. Is that a trait you find in a lot of the entrepreneurs that you meet, that there's this drive to help others in a similar capacity? And if the answer to that is yes, then why is it? Why do you think there's that drive to help keep promoting this idea of entrepreneurialism?
I think that the greatest success comes from raising other people up. So, as you know, that famous saying, rising tide lifts all boats. We have a lot of the philosophies that we've developed through Canvas Coworking and Startup Toowoomba have been based around some of the very successful entrepreneurs and tech communities in America, launched by people like David Brown, Brad Feld, and Dave Cohen, and Techstars and Startup Weekends and things like that. And they're really, their saying is #GiveFirst. So whenever we're engaging with people that want to be a part of our ecosystem, we're always asking, what can you give? What can you give first to the community, so that you can engage and enjoy the fruits of the community. So it's important that we have that give first is a part of everything we do.
Let me switch the conversation slightly, if I can, to entrepreneur capabilities. Now, I in my spare time, I'm studying to finish a postgraduate piece of work, and I'm looking at leader capabilities around things like strategic thinking and foresight. Now, in the entrepreneurial space, and I'll ask this of you, of what you think of yourself in terms of your own capabilities. What do you think are the core essential capabilities for an entrepreneur from your experience?
They need to be tenacious and they need to be prepared to fail. If you're not prepared to fail, then you can't really be a true entrepreneur. You can be a small business person. You can take on a franchise. You can do things like that. But entrepreneurship for me is really about to be tenacious, the ability to accept failure, to be able to throw things away that aren't working, to be able to recognise that rapidly as you can, and also to learn how to pivot and iterate in your with your ideas. Yeah, that's some of the traits of being an entrepreneur for me.
So if I can direct you a little bit to mentoring. Now this has come up quite a bit, not just with the entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, David, and the leaders that I've come across, but again, without skipping a beat, most have mentioned mentoring in one form or another. Now, I'm guessing, given that you've set up a not-for-profit that looks to help other entrepreneurs, that then maybe mentoring comes into that picture. But even if it doesn't, do you have a view on it? And has it been part of your journey to where you've gotten to in your career as an entrepreneur?
Getting things going with my shed blog sort of 10 years ago, that was, I suppose, not really mentor driven as such. That was purely off my own back. It was a recognition, I suppose, of my early engagement with the internet back in 1997, starting to market products on the internet, creating really basic, simple websites at that time for a business that I was operating then, and recognizing the power of the internet to connect with people. So when I set up the Shed blog, sort of 5 years into that journey, that I recognised that there was an opportunity to support people in our region based around what I'd learnt and what was coming, what was being talked about on a global basis, but regionally was not featured in the conversation. And that really was this a new surge of entrepreneurs. Previously in Australia, the word entrepreneur had taken on a dirty meaning. You think back to people like Bond and Scaife and whatnot. It was like mining magnates that had gone criminal. So if you're an entrepreneur, you were a criminal or bound to become one, that sort of thing. So it kind of was like a bit of a dirty word, but that was changing globally. We had the successes of the Web 3.0 companies like Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp and all these different operations that were coming through. And so, yeah, it was, let's take these concepts and provide them to people in our area. We had no hackathons going on. We had no startup weekends. We had no co-working space. There was no innovation hub. The business enterprise centre that was here years ago was no longer here, and even the one people in this area are being referred to was in Ipswich, and that was on its way down as well. The Chamber of Commerce was a little bit tired at the time. It was undergoing some changes after the introduction of another commerce organisation in the region. So there was flux going on there. And so there's not a lot happening. So there's a great opportunity for someone to step in and support entrepreneurs, which is what we did. But we did that by going out to the community and asking them, what do they want? Let's run some village town hall meetings and talk about some of the concepts that we thought were required, and then ask the community, would they want to be a part and could they contribute what they felt they needed. So, over time we were able to build and develop an ecosystem that's community driven and is for the community.
How big was that community response? I'm interested that you took that pathway. So you put the call out, and did you get budding sort of new entrepreneurs that were interested in talking, or just people curious to see what you had to say?
Yeah, so we've got a blend of that. We had, I basically bought a brand new pair of shoes and a nice new pair of jeans, and I walked out the door and I started visiting businesses around Toowoomba and collecting business cards, talking to them and giving out flyers, and then arranged 3 town hall meetings at the Chamber of Commerce. There's a new guy was taken over at the Chamber there, and he donated some space for us to host these meetings. And we probably had like about a dozen attendees each event for 3 events. And some of them were repeat attendees, and eventually they became, I suppose, members of the group. It was an unofficial group. There was no official structure. It was just called the Toowoomba Startup Group, and we used that to start a few meetings based around Bradfield's Boulder thesis, which is how to start a entrepreneurial community in your region. We followed that with meetups and breakfast coffee meetups and visiting entrepreneur type talks and things like that. And then we started the conversation around where do we create a home? How do we create a home for this? And that's what Canvas Coworking became. And then once again, it was like it's community driven. And anytime there was a major decision that needed to be made, we would put out a few ideas, ask people what they thought, get their feedback, weed out find the popular responses, develop upon that. And eventually we created a pilot co-working space at TAFE. The business development manager at TAFE recognised what we were looking to do, so she arranged a trial location up on Bridge Street in Toowoomba, and we were able to pilot the co-working space to find out who would come, would they pay, would they keep coming, and what was it that they needed for their business. And we did that for 6 months before recognising that we had outgrown what was available at TAFE, and so we needed to take a commercial lease as an organisation. So we did that, but we did it with confidence because we had tested and measured what was required, and we knew that we had a market for it.
Wow, that's amazing, and it's I guess it's good to hear that those in that play in that space are willing to test ideas with the communities in which they operate, and that's it's an overt recognition that your success is based in the communities that you live in. So it's quite a positive message for those that don't know about what you've done. So that's brilliant. Final question, and this one I pose to all my guests, and I'm interested to hear your response on this one. Are entrepreneurs made or born, David?
They're both. You can learn to be an entrepreneur because it's a science, I believe, and every business idea can be conducted as an experiment. So you can go, I have this hypothesis, right? What do I need to prove? What's my success criteria? Then you can design an experiment, and then you can run that experiment and basically stage gate that go, no go. What do I need to change? Do I need to change the idea? Do I need to change the customer? So I think that you can learn to be an entrepreneur. Does that mean you're going to be successful? You still need to, I suppose, become tenacious and have the ability to fail. So
you mean acceptance of failure? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, accept the possibility of failure. A lot of people won't start because they're scared of failure. So if you never start, then you'll never. Fear of failure holds people back. You need to have no fear. You got to have a crack.
Well, that's for those in your space. It's I think it's part of your DNA. David, thank you for your time. For those listening, I've been speaking to David Masefield, entrepreneur based in Toowoomba. Mate, thanks again for your time.
You're welcome, Eric. Thanks very much for having me. It's been very enjoyable. And if anybody wants to reach out for a chat anytime, just look me up on LinkedIn.
No worries, mate. Appreciate that.